They walk into a room and say nothing, yet somehow everyone feels them. Their silence isn't emptiness. It's presence. It's control. It's power. Because when the weak speak to be heard, the strong listen to understand. And the truly unshakable, they speak less, but say more with their silence than most do with speeches. This is not about introversion. It's about inner domination. Today, I'll show you why the most powerful men you've ever met are often the quietest ones. The loud are often insecure. The silent are often unshakable. In a world that rewards volume over value, we've come to confuse loudness with leadership. But the truth is far more revealing. The loudest voices in the room are often masking the deepest insecurities. They speak not because they have something important to say, but because they're terrified of being ignored, of not mattering. It's a performance, a constant audition for validation. Meanwhile, the strongest individuals rarely feel the need to announce their presence because they know their energy speaks louder than any words ever could. Their silence is not absence. It's precision, it's awareness, it's restraint. They aren't competing in the noise because they've already won in their minds. While others try to dominate with decibels, the truly unshakable dominate through stillness. They're not swayed by the chaos, not baited by provocation, and certainly not dependent on attention. Their silence makes people lean in, because silence from someone who has power, self-mastery, and presence becomes magnetic. These are the men who listen before they speak, who measure their words like currency, and who understand that true strength never needs to shout. In fact, every word they choose not to say becomes a signal of inner discipline, emotional control, and purpose. Their calmness under pressure, their refusal to react impulsively, their preference for thought over noise. It all stems from a fortress within. That fortress is built on the idea that validation is internal, not external. Unlike the insecure loudmouths who crave applause to feel alive, the silent strong are fueled by something far deeper: self-respect, clarity, and unshakable vision. They don't react, they respond. And in a world full of reactionary noise, the man who responds with quiet confidence becomes untouchable. Why silence makes you impossible to manipulate. Silence, when chosen with intent, is not just a personal strength. It's a shield that renders manipulation useless. In today's emotionally charged world, most people reveal far too much about themselves with their words. They expose their fears, their triggers, their insecurities, all in real time, simply because they can't resist the urge to speak. But the man who practices disciplined silence, he gives nothing away. He becomes unreadable, and in that unreadability, he becomes untouchable. Manipulators thrive on emotional reactions. They need data to exploit. They need you to flinch, to over-explain, to defend, to argue. Because every word you offer them is a crack in your armor. But when you remain calm, composed, and silent, you starve them of power. They can't control you if they can't understand you. They can't predict your next move if you're not broadcasting your thoughts. Your stillness becomes unsettling to them, because it means you're operating from a place of control they can't access. In relationships, negotiations, or moments of conflict, silence creates tension, the good kind. It makes the other person second guess. It flips the power dynamic. Suddenly, you're no longer chasing approval or defending your stance. You're observing, calculating, holding the frame. And in that silence, you build leverage. You gain time. You force the world to speak first, to reveal itself, while you remain centered. That's why the strongest leaders throughout history, from Marcus Aurelius to modern Stoics, practiced deliberate silence. Not because they had nothing to say, but because they knew the cost of speaking too soon, too emotionally, or without purpose. Every time you choose silence over an impulsive reaction, You build that power within. You become harder to read, harder to sway, harder to break. And the more composed you remain, the more others expose themselves trying to shake you. That's the paradox. While they try to control the environment through noise, you control it through stillness. And that's why, in the end, silence isn't just strength, it's strategy. It turns you into a fortress with no open doors. A man who speaks only when necessary is a man no one can easily manipulate, because his strength lies not in his volume, but in his unwavering restraint. How mastered silence builds supreme inner strength. Mastered silence isn't just about withholding words. It's about reshaping your relationship with yourself. It's where true inner strength is forged. In a world addicted to noise, distraction, and constant validation, silence becomes a sacred act of rebellion, a retreat inward where the real war is won. When you practice silence daily, especially in moments of stress, conflict, or discomfort, you train your mind to respond with clarity instead of chaos. You stop being a slave to every emotional impulse, every mental twitch, every external stimulus trying to hijack your peace. Silence becomes your dojo, a mental gym where discipline is strengthened, where emotions are tamed, and where clarity sharpens like a blade. You begin to hear your own thoughts without distortion. You begin to separate truth from fear, reaction from reason. That quiet space becomes your home base, your fortress of solitude where no opinion, insult, or pressure can reach you unless you let it. Over time, this self-control becomes second nature. You stop over-explaining. You stop chasing approval. You stop leaking energy through meaningless arguments. You stop trying to prove yourself. And that frees up immense mental bandwidth to focus, to observe, to act with precision. Silent strength is like a deep river, calm on the surface, but immensely powerful beneath. People sense it. They feel it when you enter a room and say nothing, yet hold the entire energy of the space. That's the effect of mastered silence. It turns presence into power. You no longer react. You move when it matters. You speak when it counts. And when you do, people listen, because your silence gave your words weight. Marcus Aurelius practiced this. So did Epictetus. They believed the mind must be trained not just with logic, but with restraint. Every moment you stay silent when your ego wants to lash out, you chip away at weakness. You gain control over your emotions instead of being controlled by them. You build a mental fortress where peace isn't dependent on others behaving or life going your way. It's anchored deep inside. That's the true power of mastered silence. It's not passive. It's an active state of awareness, readiness, and focus. It's where your spirit sharpens while the world distracts itself to death. And in a time when most people are screaming for attention, the man who holds his peace becomes the rarest, most commanding presence in any room. Not because he's quiet, but because his silence speaks louder than their noise. The discipline of speaking less. Every word becomes a weapon. When a man masters silence, something remarkable happens. His words begin to matter. Not because he speaks often, but because he speaks with purpose. Speaking less isn't about being shy, reserved, or weak. It's about wielding language like a weapon, choosing each word with the precision of a blade. The Stoics knew this well. They believed that undisciplined speech revealed an undisciplined mind. Every time you blurt out frustration, ramble to fill silence, or over-explain to seek validation, you dilute your presence and drain your power. But when you practice the discipline of speaking less, you create space. Space for thought, for observation, for timing. You begin to understand that silence is not a void to be filled, but a canvas to be respected. And when you do speak, it lands with weight. It carries gravity. People listen, not because your voice is louder, but because your silence gave it meaning. Every word becomes intentional, sharp, and anchored in clarity. This is how you transform conversation from noise into strategy. You don't react, you respond. You don't explain, you reveal. You don't try to win every argument. You speak when the outcome matters. This restraint builds mental and emotional strength. It forces you to observe more than you speak. And in that stillness, you begin to see patterns others miss. You notice who's talking to impress, who's bluffing, who's hiding behind noise. You develop the rare ability to speak directly, cut through nonsense, and influence without wasting energy. The discipline of speaking less also builds self-trust. You no longer need to broadcast your worth. Your actions, energy, and presence do that for you. You stop performing and start leading. Not with noise, but with silent certainty. This is how Stoic leaders commanded armies, empires, and philosophies. Not with speeches, but with restraint. They knew that silence before speech builds strength behind it. It sharpens your message and magnifies your intent. Think of it like sharpening a sword. You don't swing wildly. You wait, you study, and when you strike, it's clean, decisive, unforgettable. That's the power of saying less. It transforms every sentence into strategy. And that's rare, because in today's world, flooded with opinions, arguments, and endless digital noise, the man who speaks with restraint stands out like a beacon. He's not swayed by trends or trapped by reactions. He's grounded, intentional, and unshakable. And people respect that. They lean in when he talks, not because he's louder, but because he's earned their attention through presence, not performance. That is the silent art of the Stoic. Knowing when to speak, how to speak, and most importantly, when to remain silent. And once you master that balance, you become untouchable. A man who influences without noise, leads without shouting, and wins without saying a word more than necessary. There's a kind of presence that walks into a room and turns heads, without a single word. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's not desperate for attention. It's the kind of presence that commands respect purely through being. This is the essence of silent strength, a calm, grounded energy that doesn't ask for validation because it doesn't need any. The Stoics cultivated this presence through years of restraint, self-mastery, and deliberate action. Marcus Aurelius wasn't feared because he yelled. He was respected because he didn't have to. His strength was inward, quiet, and immovable. And that's exactly why it radiated outward. Real power doesn't rush to prove itself. It doesn't perform. It holds. And in that holding, it dominates. This silent strength is the result of inner clarity, of knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what no one can take from you. When you embody that, you don't walk into a room hoping to impress. You bring gravity with you. People pause when you speak, not because of volume, but because of weight. You've cultivated your mind. You've practiced restraint. You've turned down noise and turned up awareness. And so your presence becomes rare. It becomes felt. In a world addicted to attention, the man who doesn't need it becomes magnetic. He's mysterious. He's confident without arrogance, powerful without words. He listens more than he speaks, but when he does speak, people lean in. Why? Because the silence before his words has already done the work. That silence signals control, patience, and depth. It tells the world, I don't need your approval to stand firm. And that's intoxicating. It shifts dynamics. It flips the script. You're no longer chasing respect. It starts coming to you. This is what modern men have forgotten. That presence isn't in performance. It's in stillness. Power isn't in how much you say. It's in how little you need to say. You stop trying to convince. You stop trying to dominate through volume. You let your focus, discipline, and silence speak louder. That's the kind of power that lives long after you've left the room. It echoes. It stays in people's minds. It's not built in a day. It's forged in the little choices. resisting the need to speak, watching before reacting, staying composed under pressure, and walking away when the noise becomes meaningless. That is the Stoic's silent strength. And when you develop it, you don't just walk into a room. You own it. Not through noise, not through ego, but through the quiet authority of a man who's mastered himself. That's what makes you unforgettable. Not your words, not your titles, but your stillness, your presence, your silence, unshaken, unreadable, and unstoppable. In a world that rewards noise, the rarest and most powerful men are the ones who've mastered the art of silence. Not the silence of fear or passivity, but the silence of clarity, control, and inner strength. The Stoics understood something we've forgotten. When your emotions no longer control you, when your presence doesn't beg but commands, and when your silence speaks louder than words, you become untouchable. This isn't about pretending to be strong. It's about building that strength from the inside out, through discipline, awareness, and deliberate restraint. So the next time you're tempted to speak just to be heard, pause, breathe, hold the silence, let it shape you. Because the strongest men don't need to shout to be remembered. Want to master this silent power? Start now. Practice stillness. Cut the noise. Observe more. Speak less. But when you do, speak with purpose. Bell subscribe if you're ready to become mentally unshakable. Thumbs up like if this message hit something deeper in you. Speech balloon comment with the one Stoic principle you'll start living today. This isn't just a mindset. It's a way of life. And once you choose it, you'll never see power the same way again.